Shebon, wearable devices that sense and communicate arousal, and help us talk to each other about sexuality. As humans, it's one of our most basic built-in features, but from my experience, it seems like the thing we have the hardest time talking to one another about. Regardless of the reasons, it's something that I want to change, and I'm making a concerted effort to do so, using technology as my weapon of choice. But I'm not speaking of commercial products that we all have access to. I think that the homemade one-off devices that were created for the user, by the user, can help us better communicate our needs, desires, and expectations. To encourage others to take an active role in the creation of custom electronics, and to help fuel an approachable dialogue about human sexuality, I started working on a project called Shebon about 1.5 years ago. Shebon is a collection of wearable devices that I've created for use with different parts of my own body. Each device senses a discrete form of biodata as input, like temperature, galvanic response, heart rate, muscle tension, or blood pressure, and then leverages that information to indicate what I'm experiencing in a performative manner of electronic or mechanical output. To manage all the different devices, I designed a core system called the Pulse Pack. The main brain is housed in a heart-shaped enclosure that provides power, communicates with the other wearables, and is worn on the back. Each of the Shebon devices communicates with the Pulse Pack by plugging into the outside perimeter of the housing. This turns the backpack into a wearable breakout board for the PCB inside. To visualize the sensor data received from the wearable devices, I designed an ARM-mounted user interface called the Pop Girl. This peripheral notifies me if any of the Shebon devices reaches a threshold that relates to excitement or arousal. And as for the Shebon augments themselves, the Hickey Choker is the device worn on the neck, which simulates the sensation of lips sucking on your skin in relation to the wearer's respiratory rate. A bank of small syringes worn on the back pump in and out to create an amount of suction in many lip-like silicone suckers that are positioned at key points around the wearer's neck and shoulders. The beatbox whispers audible messages into the pelvis at a volume consistent with the wearer's heart rate. As the heart beats faster, the whispers become louder and more noticeable, and eventually the volume is high enough that it can be heard by others nearby, and the sound's vibration can be felt in the sensitive parts of the skin.
Mercy, push yourself close to me. It's so nice, my darling.
Okay. The Propellor Pasties are worn over the breasts and use an IR distance sensor to detect subtle amounts of size fluctuation in the nipples. POV-equipped propellers on the outside of the bra display a word which relates to the relative size of the nipple. The scale that's used? Different types of food. I've even made a flesh-displacing winch belt called the Hot Spot that creates artificial gap between my thighs in relation to my body's temperature. The hotter my body becomes, the more the winch pulls, creating a noticeable separation between my legs. So these wearable devices help me communicate aspects of my physical state that are subtle and thus might go unnoticed. They also help me express my unique sexual identity in a more approachable way. I think that the technology we choose to create for ourselves can help us express our individuality in new and exciting ways. If we can communicate more of our individual human experience to those around us, then maybe we'll be able to relate to one another better. And just maybe our technology can foster empathy in the world rather than serving to isolate us from each other. I recruit help and feedback from my community and friends during the process of creating all of the devices. The engineering and fabrication problems I pose indirectly lead to discussion about intimacy, and spark the quality of casual communication about sensuality that I hope to encourage. What technology would you create to express something about yourself?